Hi everyone, so this video is going to be a woman-to-woman video. We haven't had one of these videos in a while, and I'm going to just put my phone on silent because it is bound to go off in the middle, because that's what always happens to me. So there, I've put it off so we can chat. But as you will see by the title of this video, I have titled it kind of beauty and feminism, but there's lots of kind of different aspects that I want to talk about in this video, and it is a topic that I think about a lot, because without getting into kind of the ins and outs of feminism and do you consider yourself a feminist and all that kind of thing and what feminism even means, and I can also kind of completely appreciate that it probably means different things to different people. What feminism means to me is just men and women being equal. And I kind of think that kind of spreads across the board really, in just people being equal in general, gender equality, human equality, it's all pretty much the same. And you know, I can't kind of quite contemplate the alternative of like, so what, you think that men and women should be treated differently because one's this and one's that? It just, I don't even understand it, and I'm not even going to get into that discussion because that's kind of different for a different video. But I have often kind of had these discussions with people where they will kind of question your intelligence if you like makeup as much as I do. And I am aware that, you know, I like makeup a lot. I like talking about makeup a lot. And I was actually with my friend on the train the other day, and we were just talking about, she's a fellow kind of blogger, and we were talking about makeup, and then she said, God, can you imagine if like someone sitting here listening to us now, they'd think we were insane. And I said, yeah, they'd think that we were like bimbo number one, bimbo number two. And it's just really weird because I kind of think, I then afterwards thought about it and I thought, yeah, but if I was sat on the train and I overheard two men discussing football in depth, I wouldn't think anything of it. I wouldn't think anything that would be an assumption to their intelligence. Not in the slightest. That wouldn't even come up in the conversation for me. And I think that kind of the problem with beauty and feminism is, you know, can you be a beauty-loving feminist? And my answer to that is you can be whatever type of feminist you like. There are no rules. There's no one that kind of decides what counts as a good feminist and a bad feminist. But it is very much perceived as you're a bad feminist if you kind of give in to society's beauty standards, which are, you know, to be slim, to have no body hair, which is something that I'll touch on in a minute, and to not, you know, worry about things like makeup and all that kind of thing. No one ever stops for a moment to think that, you know, it is natural to want to look nice, and some people maybe like wearing perfume because they like smelling good, or they like wearing lipstick because they like that it makes their lips feel nice. No one kind of seems to mention those. But when it comes to kind of feminism and hair removal, I think that's a very, very loaded subject, because on the one hand, I can understand that perception that people have of that you are conditioned to think that you need to remove all your body hair and that body hair is horrible. But I also kind of have an issue with that, because I kind of think, you know, women throughout the ages have been doing that, not really kind of thinking of advertising and razor companies and all that kind of thing. You know, ancient Egyptian women have always removed hair, and in certain cultures as well, kind of it's just a very, very common practice. And it is something that I think that, you know, okay, it's not something that men are necessarily having to worry about. But I find it very patronising when people assume that, you know, women have Brazilian waxes because of society and kind of, you know, patriarchal society, and because it's what men want and because of porn. Because while that may be a reason in some cases, in other cases it might just be they like it. It might just be because they find it increases sensitivity during sex. It might be because they prefer how it looks. It might be because they like wearing really tiny underwear and don't want hair poking out the sides. It might be because they just feel like it's kind of cleaner in that area. It could be a million and one reasons. And so many people kind of want to assume that it's because of that. It's you've been conditioned to think that. We're not robots. You know, people can just have personal preferences. And I just find it a very kind of patronising view almost. But by the same token, I do understand that, you know, needing to remove hair from everywhere and thinking that body hair is gross does come from somewhere. But I also kind of think that assuming that it's always to do with men is wrong, because I have, for example, this is, oh sorry, I'm moving the light with my foot, it's talking of like, you know, bikini waxing, okay, I've always done that when I was single, and now I've been with my boyfriend for like 1,010 years and I still do it, and I don't think he even notices. Sure, everybody can have a preference, and I also don't think, by the way, that there's anything wrong with taking into consideration someone else's preference. If someone says to you, you know, like, I don't want to be with you if you don't shave, then, you know, they're being ridiculous. But if you're having a conversation about it and someone says, you know, yeah, I prefer it because X, Y, Z, without going into kind of intimate information, I don't see anything wrong with that. Just like, for example, if a guy had a really hairy back, I don't like that. It's not, you know, it's not for me. So if kind of we were discussing that and, you know, they were like, oh, okay, well, I'll wax it, they're considering kind of what your preference is. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that, as long as it's something that, you know, they don't mind or they want to do. But obviously, like, for me, it's never come from that kind of place. It's just come from a place of, I prefer kind of being smooth. I like how it feels. You know, people talk about, like, you know, oh, feminist with hairy armpits and that kind of thing. People don't mention the fact that if you shave your armpits, it makes your deodorant work better. I'm a super sweaty person and I hate it. I'm like, I don't care if you're a feminist or not. Nobody wants to have BO. It's unpleasant, and it's unpleasant for the people around you as well. So that, you know, it could be because of that. It could be because of a million other reasons, other than because it's what society dictates for you to do. But I completely understand that kind of that's where it has come from, and why people have an issue with that. Why people have an issue with the pressure that women are under to be that type of kind of the norm of what is considered beautiful. I can completely understand that the norm is what's the problem more than other things. And I am guilty in certain ways of, you know, everybody has kind of preferences in terms of beauty and that kind of thing. So for example, I like long hair on myself. I also like long hair on other women. It's just kind of what I like. But I also do think that kind of a lot of us are conditioned to like certain things, and there is a little bit of a problem with that. But I do think that when it comes down to it, nobody really ends up being attracted or liking to something that they're not naturally attracted to or like anyway. I think kind of your natural inclination to what you like at the end of the day does come in there. And I find it so infuriating when people try and kind of question your intelligence because you like makeup, because it is one of those things where nobody ever does that to men. And I read a quote the other day, I think it was it Sally Hughes? I think it was, and she said, you know, like, I never hear a man talking about, like, you know, cars and then think, but do you know what's going on in Syria? Like, it wouldn't even come into that. But if you are overly into makeup, people assume that. But it's just like how if you're kind of overly made up, people might assume that, you know, you're a bit of an airhead. And it is so infuriating because one has nothing to do with the other. And I even think that kind of, you know, personal grooming and caring about how you look and taking care of your looks, that kind of extends to men as well. And you can have, like, you know, men who... Perfect example, somebody like Cristiano Ronaldo, who, you know, is amazing footballer, but is clearly very into his grooming and all that kind of thing. You know, he's got better eyebrows than I have, and he's clearly very into it. No one ever questions his kind of talent. No one ever questions his intelligence just because he clearly, you know, likes a bit of fake tan. Whereas with women, it happens all the time. And I get comments all the time. To be honest, a lot of them tend to be from women who don't wear any makeup and men who have an issue with makeup. Some men say that, you know, it's being fake, it's false advertising, that, you know, naturally beautiful people look beautiful without it. And it's just like, Okay, how many naturally beautiful people do you actually know in real life? Okay, first of all, everybody looks beautiful without makeup, and everybody looks beautiful with makeup, and it's got nothing to do with kind of your personal preference. If you're a guy who doesn't like women who wear makeup, don't go out with women who wear makeup then. There, you know, plenty of them. If you're a guy who loves women in red lipstick, then go out with women who wear red lipstick. It's just not even something that's worth commenting on. And I find so often these men will kind of message you and be like, if you were really beautiful, you wouldn't have to wear makeup. A, that's incredibly rude. B, how do you know how often I wear makeup? I might go out all the time without makeup on. You don't even know that to be able to comment on it. And I will put it out there, if I'm leaving the house, I don't like to go out without a tiny bit of makeup on, but it's not for the reason that you think it is. It's not because I think that my face is so ugly without makeup, because I don't. It is because I think that my face looks a lot more attractive with makeup on, and I love that kind of feeling of getting ready for the day. I don't like for how I look when I wake up in the morning to be how I look for the rest of the day. Like, what's the fun in that? That's just not fun. I like to look like I've made an effort, and that's something that kind of a lot of people I think seem to have a bit of a problem with. It's like, oh, you've clearly spent ages doing your hair, and it's like, and? What was I supposed to be doing in that time? Solving quantum physics? What were you doing in that time where you could have been doing your hair but haven't? What were you doing? Were you, you know, solving world hunger? No, you were probably browsing Facebook. Is that a worthier cause than someone doing their hair? It's just such a infuriating topic, and I often, like I said, kind of you'll get it from women who don't wear makeup, who kind of say like, oh, but how can you be bothered? And like I said, I know someone who, you know, I've seen them when they just wake up in the morning and run a kind of comb through their hair and go out and just look like that for the rest of the day. And that is their choice, and it is fine, and there's nothing wrong with that. But personally, I like to kind of have an at-home me and a going out me. It's fun. Makeup is fun for some of us. And when people like talk about like skincare, it's like, doesn't everybody want nice skin? Like, you genuinely don't want nice skin? You want to have horrible skin? I don't get it. So like, taking care of your skin means what? That you're stupid? That you don't watch the news? It means, shock horror, that you want nice skin. Putting sunscreen on, what does that mean? That you're protecting your skin against cancer. It doesn't make you any less clever or any less anything. And I often kind of feel like it's really funny when I'll be talking to somebody, and like, I am someone who kind of watches the news, and I like to kind of keep up with what's going on in the world, and I'll say like, oh, did you see on the news that blah 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 blah, and they'll look at you. It's usually men that do this, to be fair, and they'll look at you and it's like and I can literally see in their heads it's a, oh, she has a brain. And then they'll kind of look a bit confused, and then I'll be like, well, we're like, oh, I didn't realise you knew stuff like that. And it was like, why? Because I'm wearing red lipstick. It so doesn't even make sense. And I totally get why kind of, why people have a problem with the beauty industry. But the beauty industry is one thing. And I think that it's kind of insulting to think that, you know, most women see an advert for a face cream that's talking about how many lines they have in their face and think, oh my god, I'm so old, I'm going to have to go and buy that. Pretty much everyone that I know isn't that fussed about beauty, because they just get on with their everyday lives and it's like whatever. And the ones who I know who are really into beauty are because they genuinely have a passion for it. They have a passion for things looking nice. And that's not to say that things can't look nice. Sorry, I'm kind of like fidgeting all over the place, aren't I? That's not to say that kind of you can't. I'm leaning on my foot if you're wondering what I'm doing. I've kind of got, like, there's my knee and I'm leaning on it. I just can't get comfy. The chair's really hard, and you'd think that like I've got enough cushioning on my bum to be able to be comfy, but I'm not comfy. I have filmed like 3 other videos though. So yeah, where was I? Before I was talking about my cushioned bum. Yeah, it's just, you can love something and have a passion for it without it coming from a place of insecurity. So it's kind of, it's just one of those things that I just find really, really baffling. But I can understand why people have a problem with an industry that tells you that you need to look a certain way, because nobody ever wants to be told how they should look. How you should look is entirely down to what you like. Not society, not your husband. Nobody should be able to dictate that. And I can completely understand, like I said, that I think, you know, we are at some degree conditioned to expect certain things. But to kind of imply that we're just a society of sheep that just go along with that, I think is a little bit patronising, because thinking of most people that I know, they don't care about that kind of thing. Most men that I know probably wouldn't even notice if you didn't shave your armpit for a year. It's just not really like that, I don't think, for kind of most people. Obviously for kind of, you know, the younger generation and teens and that kind of thing, I think it is more worrying. But I kind of never think, you know, like, oh, I don't want my daughter to be born into a world where, you know, she has to wear makeup to be accepted, because I don't think that's how the world really is. I think sometimes it's almost like made into an issue when it actually isn't, because so many people who I know don't wear makeup. Nobody cares. Nobody even notices it. I wear makeup every day if I'm going out because I like it. I like to kind of get ready and like have my game face on, and I like to look like the best version of myself when I go out. Why don't I like to look like the best version of myself indoors? Sometimes I do. Sometimes it's genuinely, if I'm just, you know, spending the day cleaning, there's no point in me putting tons of makeup on because I'm not even looking in the mirror and it doesn't matter. And I also kind of like to give my skin a little bit of a breather from time to time. But if I'm going out, I want to look like the best version of myself. And, you know, yeah, the best version of myself needs mascara, because the not so best version of myself has really short little eyelashes. It doesn't mean that kind of, you know, my natural face is hideous or that I'm ashamed of it. It doesn't mean anything like that. And it is definitely something that kind of, I think, people say, you know, well, you can't be a feminist loving beauty. You can love beauty, but you can have issues with certain, you know, claims that the cosmetics industry makes, the lack of diversity within the cosmetics industry, all that kind of thing. You can have a problem with, but you can still love makeup. And that's what I love about makeup, you know, the ability to make ordinary people look like movie star versions of themselves, and that is key, of themselves.